I went to this school, an Ivy League school, and I didn't play in the Ivy League and didn't quite understand how different and unique and special the experience was. And when I got there, these players are studying when we're on the road and they're doing all their homework in the bus. And I'm like, Kara, like, what is going on here? Like, we're here to win games, right? And just such a different experience, but just like grew to absolutely love these players and how they just impact the community and they want to do things far and above beyond, playing for the Olympic team. They want to do that as well, but then they're going to go change the world and just the conversations they hold and how much they care and they're just so intelligent and that really changed my life. I remember talking with Daryl a lot about my goals and how I was going to get there and failing and him being there for me. And, fast forward a few years into my career, I was cut from the 2014 Olympics and had to be an alternate and go practice with the team for the whole month of January before they were heading off to the Olympics, knowing I wasn't going. And that situation, it changed my life forever.
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast, where conscious leaders unite to unlock their highest potential so we can change the way the game is being played. Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Susan Hobson, and do we have a special guest on deck for you today? I can hardly wait for you guys to meet my friend Courtney Kessel, who is a fellow Canadian women's ice hockey player. She's now a coach, but was a former player. She played at UNH right after I was playing at Princeton, I believe, and then went on to play in the CWHL, which was the professional league that opened up post the NWHL, which was the pro league that I played in. You can see we've got a lot of alignment already right off the draw, and has since been in the coaching space, called to become a leader of our student athletes. Prior to that, she was in the PW coaching the Boston Furies for a season. I can't wait to talk to her about that. It was
The
one
fleet,
season.
the Boston Fleet.
The Boston Fleet. I can't believe I called you the Furies. I
Well,
know.
Toronto Furies, I coach them.
I know you. I know you did coaching in two different spaces, but did you coach the Furies too?
I coached the Furies for a
That's
year.
not on your bio here. I'm glad that you could add to that. And then made the transition to come into the student athlete avenue of coaching in terms of having a stint as the assistant coach at Princeton a couple years back. Left us for a season to go coach up in Boston as a head coach, right? At
Mhm.
Boston University.
Yeah, for a few months right before the PWHL opened.
And then back to Princeton, where she was just named our new head coach. She's just coming off of a fantastic first season at the helm of our Princeton women's ice hockey program. And so she has got such depth and breadth of experience, not only competing at the highest level of our sport, but also coaching at the helms at the highest level of our sport. And so that, of course, had to call her in studio to get on this mic with me so we could really start to riff on conscious leadership. Courtney, I'm so excited to have you, girl. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's so exciting how many ways our paths could have crossed there
Uh,
for a bunch of years.
I think it's actually so interesting to me that I never met you. You're only a couple of years behind me. You played in the same organization that I played in, coming up the Arrows, right?
Hmm.
You coached with Kenny, our friend Kenny, with the junior Arrows. You were playing there. And so, yeah, but we never played at the same time in the same leagues. And so I think that's how we were kind of missing each other. But where I
Yeah.
want to start today is plugging my audience into you and a little bit of this phenomenal backstory. I want you to share with us what inspired you to come out of the game and really step to the helm in terms of leadership in our game. Tell us a little bit about that backstory.
When I was in college at UNH, I would always run camps through the summer with Annie Fallenbach, who was one of my good friends who also went to UNH.
Remember her?
Maybe
Yep.
you guys crossed paths. And so every summer I was just on the ice for 8 straight weeks, every single day, just doing skills and running camps. And I just absolutely fell in love with all the kids and this game that we all love. And
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of inspired me. So as soon as I graduated from UNH, I started coaching like U15, U18, like girls, I guess, North York Storm, Oakville Hornets. And so I did that for a few years while I was still playing and trying out for Team Canada to be in the Olympics. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
super busy just running from rink to rink, but just absolutely loved it. And I think what really made me fall in love with it was, let's say 6 years go by and I got a message on Facebook from this player who went to Robert Morris and was getting a scholarship. And she was like, Court, I just wanted to thank you so much for all your help. Like, I got a full scholarship and just like how thankful. And for me, like that was so rewarding to know that I had helped her achieve her dreams. And I think I just became hungry for that and to fulfill somebody else's dreams and to help them get
Mm-hmm.
there in their aspirations. And so from there, I continued to coach in the Oakville Hornets organization and then ended up retiring and I moved to Slovakia and I
Ooh,
coached and
wow.
played on the same team, and my husband was playing on the professional men's team in the same city. And so that was really unique because there was only maybe 6 or 7 people that spoke English.
Oh,
And
wow.
so yeah, and so I had to learn how was I going to coach them and not speak the same language. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool. Came back to coach in the CWHL for the Toronto Furies, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought like, okay, this was it. I'm coaching some of the best players in the world. Like I was coaching Sarah Nurse, Natalie Spooner, Renata Fast. And funny
Mm,
enough, like I
wow.
had just played with them, right, on Team Canada. And
Mm-hmm.
so to make that transition pretty quickly in my young career, it was interesting, but they were just amazing and super humble leaders. And so that helped my job be better, obviously, make it easier. And then off to Princeton I went, and I think that's truly where it changed my life. I went to this school, an Ivy League school, and I didn't play in the Ivy League and didn't quite understand how different and unique and special the experience was. And when I got there, these players are studying when we're on the road and they're doing all their homework in the bus. And I'm like, Kara, like, what is going on here? Like, we're here to win games, right? And just such a different experience, but just like grew to absolutely love these players and how they just impact the community and they want to do things far and above beyond, playing for the Olympic team. They want to do that as well, but then they're going to go
Mm-hmm.
change the world and just
Mm-hmm.
the conversations they hold and how much they care and they're just so intelligent and that really changed my life. And so I ended up leaving, but only because I wanted to be a head coach, and I honestly thought Kara would never leave Princeton
Mm-hmm.
and and ended up in the PWHL, which was incredible, coaching some of the best players in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
quickly come to realize that I was just like I was missing something, and that was just that I wanted to change lives and I wanted to make an impact, and I
Mm-hmm.
really thought that I could do that at the NCAA level. And so when this job came open at Princeton, like it was a no-brainer for me to come back to this place that honestly changed my life. And
Wow.
so I wanted to come back and impact these players' lives and make a difference.
Wow, I'm so curious and I have so many questions off the hop based on everything you just unpacked for us. I think the place that I want to start is by getting into alignment first and foremost, just in terms of this concept of conscious leadership. I know we were talking off the mic just a little bit about how I think about that concept and why I believe it's going to revolutionize the leadership development space. But what does that concept mean to you, especially given everything that you just unpacked in your backstory?
I definitely think it took me a few years to kind of understand what kind of leader I wanted to be. And, when you talk about this conscientious leadership, like to me, I think for me, it's the way that I'm empathetic, but I'm super honest in that, like, I'm a great listener. I'm going to be honest and hold them accountable, but I'm also going to have that empathy where I understand where they're coming from and how hard each and every day is. And so, how can I help their lives be better? And how can I make the rink a special place where we're happy and we're enjoying and we're, maybe forgetting the tough things that are outside of that rink and having smiles and laughter, but pushing ourselves to be the best we can be. And I think for me, that's empathetic honesty.
Yeah, where do you feel like that value system comes from in you? Because I'm listening deeply to your backstory. And one of the things I'm always curious about for those of us who want to get back in the locker rooms and affect change in people's lives and get this sense of fulfillment out of that, when we do. I'm curious, is like, when did you feel that you first received that call to conscious leadership, even in your own lane? Like, where do you feel like that was first inspired?
I think that, I mean, with the Toronto Arrows back in the day when I was in high school, I had Daryl Giancola and Ken Dufton, like just two tremendous coaches, but two people that also like really cared and
Mhm.
came from different paths and their approach.
Mhm.
And so I would say that would be kind of the first part of it. I remember talking with Daryl a lot about my goals and how I was going to get there and failing and him being there for me. And then, fast forward a few years into my career, I was cut from the 2014 Olympics and was had to be an alternate
Mhm.
and go practice with the team for the whole month of January before they were heading off to the Olympics, knowing I wasn't going. And
Mhm.
that that situation, it changed my life forever. And I ended up meeting Jim Nyhus, who's now the head coach of the under 18 Oakville Hornets. And I really think that he taught me what empathy is, and
Mhm.
and to pair that with my honest nature of wanting, I'm super honest, but it was almost like too harsh. And
Mhm.
so learning that but I care so much that I wanted to help them, but I wasn't
Mhm.
understanding that there needed to be a little spice of empathy in there as well with your honesty. And so
Yeah.
I really think it came from him and just our conversations that we had. And I was still playing for Hockey Canada at the time. And so he was a huge mentor as a coach, but also helped me get through some of my tough times as a hockey player.
Isn't it interesting? Like when I ask that question, it oftentimes is another leader that it has inspired us to
Hmm.
want to get into this space and lead in that way that was so game changer and impactful for our heroine's journey, right? In terms of our ascension into the highest levels of our sport. And so that obviously has inspired you to adopt that same type of style because I think this is where you and I definitely align. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of those types of coaches coming up the trenches, like in the gauntlet. I had coaches throwing water bottles at my head, I joke about on the show all the time, because that was old school motivation, right? Like just it's just how leaders did it back in the day. But I feel like yeah, all it took was that one coach who really saw us through the lens of being able to empathize with our experience first. And this crazy thing happens when they actually come in through that front door in terms of leading with empathy. It's a felt sense. We know that our leaders care about us, and therefore we're okay with them throwing a water bottle at our head after that because it lands differently. It lands as an expression of care. And that's, obviously in the old school playbook of leadership, some of what was missing is some of that more conscious, kind of human centric approach. But I just think that that's so noteworthy in your story for all of our leaders that are listening. Like this is a lot of the legacy play is that we get to be the model that carries the most weight in terms of the style of leadership that we consciously choose. And so, yeah, I want to hear about some of how that's played out in the Princeton locker room because, yeah, you hear leaders on the show talk about empathy, and we're also talking high performance leadership. And sometimes leaders don't necessarily think the two go hand in hand, right? But what has your experience been, especially coming into the student athlete space? It's different than having coached in the PW, right? Where that is your job. And that's like all that you have to think about. But what you just described is so phenomenal about these environments, especially the Ivy League condition, right? Is that they're these whole humans that have all of these different aspirations outside of the hockey rink. So, can you talk me through just some of like when you were first coming on the Princeton campus? Were you leading with empathy then, or was this something that you felt that you really had to be consciously aware of integrating?
Yeah, I think the older I got, the more empathy grew. And now I'm a mom of two. And
Mm-hmm.
so my heart has just grown so much bigger. And so I think with age and time and experience grew the empathetic side of me. And I think it was always there. I've always had a big heart and cared. And but I think that, you speak to the way we were raised in the leadership,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like, you have a goal. Okay, you reach that goal. What's next? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
What's next? And
Mm-hmm.
and you forget to take in the environment and the experiences and be thankful and enjoy everything you're going through. And so bringing that to Princeton was a big part of my goal this year. And when I came in, I guess 6 years ago, and I was 6 years younger, I didn't have kids. I don't think I had this much empathy in me, and I was more like I wanted to win, and I wanted to win each day on the ice. And although it's, we want these big goals. We want to play in the PWHL and we want to play for Team USA and Team Canada. It's realizing there's a time and a place, and meeting the players halfway and recognizing, like, are they going through exams? Are they having a bad day? Like, where are we at in this world? And like, do we need to play music? Is today like a
Mm-hmm.
music day at practice where we can still
Mm-hmm.
work hard, but we can have fun? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that comes with one-on-one meetings and just getting
Mm-hmm.
to know each player away from the game, and which is so important, and connecting and being able to then hold them accountable. But we have this board in our locker room. It's called Show Up for Each Other, and it's ranked 1 through 5, and one being like a really, really bad day. And usually you go in, and on game days it's all fives because everyone's super excited. And so every day the players walk in and they put a check mark beside their name of where they're at. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, like that was a big turning point because we would never have seen that in our locker rooms back in the day. Like, who cares how
Never.
Courtney's feeling? It's too bad, right? Like, get on the ice, let's go. and
Yeah, suck it
and
up.
so that's a big part of it, and recognizing, the different emotions that each player holds, and kind of where the weight is on their shoulders, what is that? And an easy
Mm-hmm.
point for us to reach out and ask them how they're doing and what's up, especially if, normally they're a 4 and today they're a 2. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that's a big part of who we are at Princeton, is we talk a lot about showing up for each other, and that has nothing to do with playing hockey and winning games.
Yeah, and I'm curious what your observations have been. You've got 1 year under your belt now with curating that type of empathetic condition in our Princeton locker room. And I want leaders to hear about this because actually this is a highly strategic coaching strategy, or leadership strategy, if you will. EQ, which is led by our ability to empathize with others, is the number one leadership. It's been rated the number one leadership skill of them all, according to Forbes magazine last year. And so there's actually hard data and research behind this type of strategy. But I'm curious what your observations were in that first season with that type of condition.
I I think it led to our success, to be honest, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy for the players to show up for each other when they walk by this board and they see their friends not doing well today. And whether it's hockey or, the social world or academics, sometimes they don't want to share it. And so this board gives them a space to say they're not okay without speaking about it.
Love
And
that.
and then maybe their friend reaches out to them that they're super close with, and maybe they do want to share it with them, but it's a quiet place to say, like, hey, I'm not doing okay, without saying it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think it goes miles when, it comes from within the coaching staff as well. Like, they know we look at that board, and they know that we care about it and we care about them. And so when they see that from us, like, they care about each other and they show up for each other. And when you're, the game's tied or you're down a goal, like, who do you want to be beside but other than 22 girls that want to show up for each other and play for each other? And so
Bingo.
I think just the translation from on the ice to off the ice was huge.
Yeah, I think it's massive in terms of that team cohesion, right? In terms of making sure that everybody's in alignment and kind of speaking the same language and being able to meet one another where we're actually at. And I think you and I both know from our playing careers, like there's no end to how hard I would work for those coaches. Again, because I knew how much they cared about me as a human first and foremost. And that's the exact same way with your teammates, you know? There's no
Right.
end to how hard I'm going to skate in that drill and practice if I really care about the girl to my left and right in terms of like their potential and their development. So I just love to destigmatize empathy, especially talking to high performance coaches and leaders, you know, because in 2026, we have all, like I said, all of the evidence behind this, but it is still the biggest gap that we see in terms of, you know, how we're leading these high performing teams. I'm curious for
Yeah.
you, if, unless you had something to add to that.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, and it's funny that you speak to that empathy. And I think when I was in the PWHL, I lost a little bit of that because the winning became more important than the humans. And that
Mm,
was a big learning point for me because,
mhm,
your job's on the line every single game and
mhm,
it's professional, so it's way more transactional. And so for
mhm,
me, like there was less time to have these one-on-one conversations, and it was so much more about hockey. But why?
mhm.
And I look back and I wish that I could have done it different, but I'm doing it different now. And it's not that I did it wrong, but it's just like,
No.
why didn't I bring that empathy with me to the highest level? And so just, speaking to anyone listening, it's just like, you can do it at all levels. Like we're all
Mhm,
still humans. Doesn't matter how old they are, how good they
mhm,
are. Like it's still
mhm,
so important.
mhm. Yeah, and I think again, it's like our responsibility to speak to that, you know, as people who work in top 1% environments, like we all value excellence. So by
Yeah,
no means is this us trying to prohibit that. This is actually what we're suggesting statistically, what is going to optimize that the most. And I
right,
love that you have that contrasting experience, right? Of what that was like when it was a job and the pressure and that, like that totally is what we're up against. I feel like when we get to the highest levels, right? Is like it becomes this like the scarcity thing, you know, in terms of like really prohibiting our resources. And that obviously is not a good thing for how we show up on the ice.
right.
Yeah, so I just I love that alignment and that I my curiosity naturally leads me to want to understand like what was that like for you as a player? Do you remember like being in those environments and at what point along the way did that become problematic for you? I notoriously talk about it as my freshman year at Princeton when I realized I wasn't in Kansas anymore, you know, I wasn't going to be scoring 100 points in the season I did the year before. In fact, I was going to have slivers up my ass and I was going to be riding pine for the first time in my entire career. And that was quite the cataclysmic experience that forced me via the chokehold to have to really answer the call to consciousness. You know, I had to start to really become self-aware in terms of like what the heck was going down in my nervous system. What was this imposter syndrome I was feeling? And therein lied or there presented itself the opportunity for me to finally start to step to the helm in my self leadership. And that's where everything changed for me. And I love that sport gave me that experience so far upstream, you know, because 80% of Fortune 500 CEOs that are female were athletes. We have such an amazing opportunity in terms of the leadership development that is baked into the fabric of sports. But where did that happen for you? Where do you first remember needing to like put the flashlight inward and start paying attention to maybe some of what was waking up in your nervous system as you were rising in your ascension in hockey?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I had that awareness until I retired. And
Wow.
and so I think for me and chasing this Olympic goal, I
Hmm.
just put everything to the backside and put my head down and kept working, but like so unhappy. to chase this dream, but
Mm,
never realized it until I was done,
right?
and
Yeah,
it's, yeah,
we
and
don't.
this is why, like, I want them to be in the moment and
Mm,
enjoy it. And because I just feel like I really never enjoyed any of my Hockey Canada experiences, and I played on world championships, and like
mhm,
I was an alternate for the Olympics. Like that's point zero 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 three
mhm. The
percent,
pinnacle.
like something crazy.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
was never like happy that I was just an alternate. And
mhm.
so, yeah, it was honestly, I became a meditation instructor during COVID, and that's when it hit me like, wow, this needs to be different. And how?
Wow.
And because my journey should have been different.
Mhm.
And so what that wasn't until, yeah, 2020, 2021, after my
Wow.
first season of Princeton.
What incredible inspiration for both of us to want to get this upstream, as best as we can, right? In terms of now we know, and I think that's the most valuable aspect of us getting back into these spaces to contribute and have an impact is like that experience that we hold is so valuable to these young people and their perspectives. So now that
Mhm.
you've had that experience in COVID, you became a meditation instructor. Obviously, a heck of a lot more consciousness there. How are you bringing that into the locker room this season, this upcoming season for our Princeton athletes?
Well, I think it's just every day I show up with a smile for these players, and
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love my job. Like I love coming to the rink and hanging out with my coaches that I coach with, and the players know that we're just a little family of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to simulate that. And I think that's the conscientious part of that we're all humans, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be the best hockey player if we can enjoy the moments being together and being at the rink, whether it's 7:30 in the morning or 8 p.m. at night and we're playing games or we're on long bus trips. It's just like enjoying those moments and being able to look back and be like, hey, remember that bus ride when our tire popped and we were on our way to Harvard and we got stuck for 4 hours and we had fun on the bus. And I
Yeah.
think when they realize that like that is what is important,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to realize that success comes with happiness and surrounding yourself with people that push you, but that you enjoy being around. And so I think for us, that's kind of how we bring it. And, from a meditation side, like I talk about it a little bit, and we'll do some, 1 to 5 minute sessions with the team and kind of feel it out. And some of them hate it and some of them love it, and
Yeah.
just kind of feel it out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I definitely know the pushback is real. That's the last thing that a high achieving athlete trusts is the down gear.
Yeah.
Typically, we like the up gear, right? In terms of that full engagement. But you're making the case for them, right? By introducing them even to that like simple practice of meditation. It's so obvious the difference before and after. You can't deny the evidence of your visceral experience when you meditate, right?
Yeah,
And
for
once they
sure.
start connecting the dots to how that's showing up on the ice, right? Forget about it. They'll be lifelong meditators. I'm curious, Courtney, what do you do in the mental gym besides meditation? Like, as you're preparing for this season and you're talking about how you've had all of these like conscious realizations since the pandemic in terms of how you really consciously want to show up as a leader, what are your practices in terms of your own development?
Yeah, and it's gotten harder since having two kids for sure. So I'm running
Speak
around
to
with my head
that.
chopped off. Yeah.
Yes, speak to that because
I
we're
think,
we're a bunch of parents out here listening for the most part.
yeah, and so just being super busy has honestly helped me think less and almost like focus less on hockey and more about just whether I'm just getting through the day and I don't know it, like
Yeah.
waking up, being a mom, going to the rink. And so I think I just prioritize like when I'm at home, I'm going to be a mom.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to worry about the X's and O's. And obviously, if a player texts, like I'm there for them. But I really want to be a mom and show up for my kids. And then when I'm at the rink, I really want to be there for those players and I want to be the best leader or coach that I can be. And so I think kind of separating those worlds a little bit through the week. And then what's
Hmm.
really fun about being at Princeton is my kids are at the games and they're banging on the glass and all my players are waving to them. And just like molding those two worlds together has been really helpful for me, and that like it's okay to be a mom and to be tired and to have bad days, and my players show up for me on those days when I am tired and I woke up at 5 a.m. and it's 6 p.m. and we're still on the ice. And so
Mhm.
I think it's like it's a shared responsibility, and that's why we talk a lot about showing up for each other and what that looks like.
Oh, I love it. I love how you're modeling that on both sides of the glass, so to speak, in terms of, your players being able to see that integration with your kids and your kids' ability to see you on the bench with your players. And it's like, it's the same Courtney across all boards, and it's the same type of culture that you're trying to inspire on both sides of the fence, right?
Yeah.
I love it. The last place that I wanted to dig was just a little bit in and around. You got to coach in the PW. You and I started these pro leagues back in the day when they were trying to convince us that nobody would pay to come to our games. You remember that narrative?
Yeah,
And
sure
so
do.
I'm sure you shared that maybe limited perspective that was indoctrinated upon us during that time and space, right? That this would never be a thing, that we would never have the opportunity to play the sport that we love and enjoy so much and actually make a full-time wage for it, right? And so you're in that environment, coaching in those locker rooms in Toronto and Boston. And so I'm curious, like, what was that like for you in terms of that little girl inside, like me, who never thought in our lifetime that that would be a possibility?
Yeah, it was really special and so cool to start the league. And I'm building a change room and a office space and doing the first ever like huge draft. And so it was really cool to be a part of all that. And I think when it really hit me, we played at the Bell Center in my second year. And so there's 20,000 fans and the national anthem's going on. And I'm Canadian, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm standing on the bench and I like almost started crying. I was
Oh, I
just
don't know how you
like,
didn't, girl. I don't know how you
I had the
didn't.
shakes. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, we did it. Like we've
Yeah.
really done it. Look at this.
Oh.
And I think that moment will stick with me for the rest of my life for sure. But I think that was like one of the most pivotal moments of realizing like, holy cow, our game has come so far and 20,000 people are here cheering, whether they're against us because we're for Boston and we're playing Montreal, but it was just so incredible to be a part of.
I'm just so proud of us for not listening to the cheap seats, right? And continuing to show up back in the day when, maybe they weren't paying us or paying us that much, so to speak. Yeah, we're moms now, right? You have a little girl, right?
A little girl and a little boy, yeah.
Yeah, so this thought from this, I cry every time I watch these games, and I get chills every time I see these sold out freaking NHL stadiums, because that's where I go. It's like the legacy play of that for our girls, like they get to live in a world where they now know that truly whatever they want to do is possible. Like that's the glass ceiling that we've shattered in terms of
Yeah.
like that limited belief system that we've now empowered on behalf of all little girls. So yeah, I just high five long distance. I think this is why I love being a leader so much is I love shattering glass ceilings like you do. You've shattered oh so many along the way, and I'm just so grateful that you got to come in here and share a little inspiration with our folks. If anybody out there listening wants to follow up on the sidelines, which I know they will, and have a little sideline chat with Coach Kessel, where's the best place to find you? We said Instagram, right?
Yes.
And you're at
At
Courtney Kessel.
Courtney Kessel,
Yeah,
14.
14. Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll include all of that in the show notes. We'll make it really easy for you to connect with Courtney on the sidelines. For everybody else listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Do us a favor. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out the locker room door. Please share this episode with a teammate, with one of the coaches maybe along the way or leaders along the way that inspired you to change the way you were playing the game, perhaps. Help us spread this ripple effect as far and wide as we can. I maintain there's never been a more important time in human history for us leaders to be consciously stepping to this helm. And I know episodes like this are surely going to help us do just that. That's it for this week. Courtney, thank you so much for coming in, girl. I had so much riffing, so much fun riffing with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I love that fun is our shared metric, right? In terms of that success. That's the other thing I
Yeah.
didn't have time to speak to, but maybe we'll have you in for part two and we'll unpack that.
All
Thank,
right. Sounds
thank,
good.
thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.